this video, we're going to drive the Dalton Highway, one of North America's most remote and dangerous roads, from Fairbanks all the way to Deadhorse, just a few miles off the Arctic Ocean. Through boreal forest, the Brooks Range, and the tundra of the North Slope, we'll cross the Arctic Circle and experience the midnight sun. Over the next few days, we're going to the northernmost point you can drive to on the American continent. I'm riding in my RV, wherever I want to be, 'cause I'm free in my RV, yeah. Hello everybody and good morning. Well, technically it's not morning yet. The time is 1:40. Sunset was about an hour ago, 12:44 a.m. and sunrise will be at 3:02 a.m. So this is basically midnight and the sun, you know, it's still light outside. Now where we're going next, this is going to be even more drastic because the sun is never going to set. So let's head to the Arctic. The Dalton Highway officially begins 80 miles north of Fairbanks at the Living Good Junction. The first 10 miles are going to be on the Steese Highway, which so far is in great condition. And our first stop is coming up actually, at this pullout where you can see the Alyeska Pipeline up close. And they have interpretive signs and artifacts, and I can already see it. Stopping here is of great significance in the context of our trip because the construction of this pipeline was the very reason for the road we're about to take. Well, this is one of the few places where you get to see the pipeline up close. If you recall, a couple of days ago we went to another spot where you can see it, but here you can actually stand under it. So let's check it out and see some of these artifacts. They have like the pegs, which are the devices they use to cling to service, you know, to the pipeline. Of course, we're going to be seeing a lot more of the pipeline as we continue driving north on the Dalton, but this is probably as close as we're going to get. Here's an award from the American Welding Society, and this device is called pegs. This first one was used to scrape wax buildup when the pipeline started operations, and then replaced by this one, used for cleaning and flow improvement. Okay. Here's that retired peg, and pretty cool how they send them on the pipeline, and you know, they monitor things, they clean the pipeline. It's very interesting. Well, now continue north. The next stop, it's not quite the Arctic Circle yet. The next stop is actually the beginning of the Dalton Highway. It's still about 2 hours away. And these are those pipes used to dissipate heat and protect the permafrost. So we are here. This is the Arctic Circle, and eventually we'll make it to Prudhoe Bay. We continue on Alaska Highway 2, the Steese Highway in this section. As we approach Fox, there's a fork on the road. If we were to make a right, we would continue on the Steese Highway, Alaska Highway 6, which dead ends at a town called Circle, on the bank of the Yukon River. Although it is not quite at the Arctic Circle, it is still a whole degree of latitude south. Going straight, we enter the Elliot Highway, which we are going to drive for about 70 miles. It is paved, so that's a good thing. We're starting to get some frost heaves, and there's construction going on. I have a feeling road conditions are going to start deteriorating here real soon. That's gotta be a boring job, holding that stop sign all day long, but someone's gotta do it, right? There's the pipeline, and we're going to see a lot of it during the next few days, since it parallels the road all the way to Prudhoe Bay. It is becoming a bad roller coaster ride with all these frost heaves. Let's stop real quick to see how everything is doing back there. Well, the Elliot Highway, so far, worse than I expected, worse than I remembered. So, let's see how everything fared in here. Well, so far, so good. Yeah, besides this, everything else seems to be in place. The Dalton Highway, 14 miles. We're almost there. And before you ask, yes, Minitini IV came with solid steps, but we thought it would be more practical to have a step ladder for this particular trip, since we're going to be camping at tight places in all kinds of uneven terrain. Here's Living Good Junction, the beginning of the Dalton Highway. There are signs warning about heavy industrial traffic, and this is where the pavement ends. For the next 416 miles we have a theoretical speed limit of 50 miles per hour, but I doubt we're going to be able to go that fast most of the time. Well, yeah, this will be the ultimate road trip for Starship and Minitini IV. We are doing the Dalton Highway, and yeah, we did this back in 2010, but just with a Jeep, and we're going from Fairbanks here all the way to Prudhoe Bay, which is, I mean, the road ends just a few miles from the Arctic, and then we're gonna take a tour from there. And yeah, this road was originally made just for the construction of the pipeline, and it wasn't even open to the public until the 1980s, if what I read is correct. And yeah, here's some information about the construction of the pipeline. Oh, we've been anticipating this moment for such a long time. All right, it's gonna be a long road ahead. It's 414 miles and 50 miles to the first services, which is, I believe it's 50 miles, the Yukon River. So let's get underway. Today we're only gonna make it to the Arctic Circle, though. You know, we're gonna take it slow. Here goes nothing. This first section is pretty rough. There seems to be a lot of construction going on. By the way, the road was named after Alaskan engineer James Dalton, built as a supply road for the pipeline and the Prudhoe Bay oil operations. And that is still its main function. Here's a little bit of history. In 1966, the North Slope was open for oil extraction, and soon after, the road was built. But that first road ended up being a failure due to poor engineering, thawing permafrost, and the harsh conditions of this remote area. The final road and the pipeline would not be completed until 1977. Then, in 1981, the road was partially open to the public, and the entire length in 1994. By the way, road conditions have improved a little bit, but I'm afraid it may not last. I knew it, we have more construction coming up. I have a feeling these construction delays are going to be more the norm than the exception, but what can you do? I guess this is the price you pay for driving the most remote road in America. Here we are following a pilot car. Pavement, ever so briefly. It is otherwise a beautiful drive. This, coming up here on the left, would have been our first stop, Our first point of interest, the Hess Creek Overlook, but it is closed due to construction, which is a real bummer because I wanted to reenact our 2010 trip as closely as possible. As I mentioned, we've been here before. In fact, driving the Dalton was the main reason we came to Alaska for the first time back in 2010. And here's the story. Sometime, I wanna say in the mid-2000s, I was doing some travel research online, as you do, surfing the interwebs. Like, what's the coldest city in the world? It turned out to be a city in Siberia. I think we're gonna save that one for a future date. Then I searched highest paved road in America. That was Mount Evans, which we eventually did in 2014. Northernmost road in the world? That was the North Cape in Norway, which we eventually also did in 2018. The northernmost road in America turned out to be this one, the Dalton. That seemed somehow more feasible. Around that time, we also started watching a reality show called Ice Road Truckers, in which a group of semi-truck drivers competed, hauling loads up the Dalton during the icy winter months. So we started investigating the logistics of actually driving this road. Rental companies do not allow their vehicles on the Dalton, and RV rentals only to the Arctic Circle. There are special outfitters in Fairbanks, however, that will rent you an all-wheel drive SUV for the ultimate adventure, so that's what we did back in 2010. 13 years ago. We always thought it would be cool to attempt this with an RV, having our own bathroom, and being able to stay at several campgrounds along the way. We had everything planned for 2020. Then 2020 happened. Now we are finally able to do it, this reprise of our 2010 adventure, and we are super stoked, even if it doesn't end up being exactly the same experience. There it is, our first sighting of the mighty Yukon River, our next stop along the Dalton. Here we are crossing the Yukon on the wooden deck of the E.L. Patton Bridge, the only bridge crossing the Yukon in Alaska. This is where we're going to stop, Yukon Camp. They have a restaurant, a hotel, convenience store, and most importantly, fuel. The bridge over the Yukon was completed in 1975, and it is pretty impressive. The bridge also carries the pipeline, and down there, the small cabin is the Yukon Crossing Contact Station with interpretive signs, and then the Yukon River Camp. And yes, that is the whole thing, a small settlement in an otherwise vast wilderness. Very interesting how the bridge was built on a slope too, one end higher than the other. You don't see that every day. Beautiful landscape looking towards the southwest. Alright, let's have lunch. Making sandwiches by the Yukon River. Well, here we are. This is the Yukon camp. We just had some sandwiches for lunch. Although, in there, they have a small restaurant. You know, burgers and stuff. They have a, I believe that is like a small hotel. And most importantly, gas. This is one of two other places where we're gonna find services on the road. So we're gonna fill up here and then head to the Arctic Circle. But first, let's check out the Yukon River. Now crossing the Dalton by foot. And there's the pipeline. I told you we were gonna see lots of it. I wonder if this is fireweed. Let's go into the visitor center. Here we go. Here we have some information about the bridge and the Alyeska Pipeline. Let's walk swiftly because the mosquitoes are relentless and very numerous. This is one of two viewing platforms from where you can see the bridge and the river. There are interpretive signs about the river and the construction of the bridge.
I think this might be the last time we're gonna be able to get out of the car and seeing things without putting bug spray.
Unfortunately, the contact station is closed. Let's go back and top off the tank.
Well, they have an interesting system here. You just leave your credit card, you pump, and then you take a picture of how much money you spent, and then you take it back. Which, by the way, $7.49.9 per gallon. But hey, that's Dalton Highway prices here. This is gonna be an expensive fill-up.
I did manage to add my sticker to the pump, so if you happen to pass through here, let me know if you can find it. Let's get on our way. Here's one of the road construction tanker trucks, pumping water right off this creek. Pretty cool. And back in the Dalton we are. Just 4.5 miles north of Yukon River Camp, there used to be another restaurant that had some pretty good sandwiches. I've heard it's not open anymore though, so let's corroborate. There is indeed a closed gate blocking our way. We're gonna have to reverse. Easier said than done. This is a section of the road with many steep grades, lots of which truck drivers have given names to over the years. This one coming up is called Sand Hill. This one is not so bad, but I think the one coming next, if memory serves, is pretty impressive. This is it. This may be the most famous one of them all. Roller coaster. Look at that sheer drop. Not for the faint of heart. It is very dusty on this part of the Dalton. Here we're going to make a detour and drive about a mile up this hill to the 86-mile overlook. Here they're storing all these road construction materials, but the views towards the Yukon Flats National Wildlife Refuge should be pretty epic.
Here we are. Check it out. That's some legit dirt on Minitini. It's getting thicker, that layer of mud. But, well, here we are. This is the 86.5 mile overlook. And just listen to the sound of silence up here. You know, I mean, you hear some traffic on the Dalton Highway down there, but it's very peaceful up here. And down there, the Dalton and the pipeline, as always, ever present. Well, we're gonna take a 5-minute break here. Whoops, I think I have a mosquito on my eye. And then we continue.
Let's enjoy this view for a few minutes. Check it out! I believe those may be some granite tors, a rock formation typical of the tundra. I believe we'll be seeing more soon. There's still a little bit of snow here.
Getting dirty up here. Look at the jack.
Here's a really good spot from where you can get a great photo of the Dalton and the pipeline. Let's wait until the dust settles. I believe the zigzag pattern is to allow it to expand and contract with the temperature changes, and also to withstand earthquakes. We continue, the pipeline ever present throughout our journey. Here's our next stop, Finger Mountain.
Well, we're stopped here at the Finger Mountain wayside. It's getting chilly. Uh-oh. I hear the water pump. Oh. Well, yeah, there are a couple of screws and brackets that were on the floor. I don't know where they belong, but other than that, I think... Look at the sewer. This is gonna be fun. Oh, we need to get water. That's the main thing. We need to get water soon.
There it is. Finger Mountain, pointing towards Fairbanks, actually.
Okay, let's check out all these rocks, which I believe are formed by the permafrost, you know? It's like they just come up from underground as the ground freezes and thaws. But wait, did I mention it is getting chillier? I'm gonna have to grab my hoodie the next time we get out of the car.
Here's some information about Finger Rock, a landmark through time. Let's go on a little hike to the highest point, for perhaps a commanding view. Here's some information about these rock formations and how they formed over the course of millions of years. There's the road ahead and the pipeline.
As I mentioned, all these rocks are called tors. And Finger Mountain back there seems to be the biggest one of them all.
About our little incident back there, with all the bouncing and vibration, it opened the sink faucet, and I don't really know how much water we lost. Even worse, I don't really know how full our gray tank is. Yes, we have sensors, but they're not all that accurate. And the closest dump station is at the 5-mile campground, which we left behind 40 miles back, about an hour ago. According to the BLM map, there's a dump station in Deadhorse, so we're going to keep going. Now, if we can't find that dump station in Deadhorse, the return trip will have to be a little more rushed than the original plan. Of course, showers will be uncommon until we find somewhere to dump the tanks. This is another one of those steep grades named by truckers over the years, this one called the Beaver Slide. We have arrived to perhaps the most important landmark of our journey, the Arctic Circle, and there is a BLM campground, so this is where we're gonna spend the night. Then again, it will never get dark, so we may not get much sleep.
And we've made it to one of the most important landmarks of our trip here, the Arctic Circle. Latitude 6633 on the Dalton Highway. And yeah, we are here. You know, the Arctic Circle surrounds the North Pole, and on this day-ish, you know, on the solstice, actually, which happened like what, 5 days ago. Anything north of here doesn't see nighttime, so that's why we've been experiencing such long days. And now, from now on, the sun will not set until we come back south. And here we have several exhibits explaining, you know, the different seasons in this unique environment here. Fall, of course, yeah, the equinox, days and nights are exactly the same. In winter, it's the opposite. It's always dark. And as you can see, well, winter here, you know, the area close to the North Pole is always dark. If you come to spring, it's similar to fall, right? A leap into life. And once you get to summer, that's where we are right here. The area surrounding the Arctic is there's always light. This is, of course, all due to the tilting of, you know, of the Earth rotation. Now I'm gonna add my sticker here to the back of the Arctic Circle sign. If you recall, 13 years ago we actually signed it, but I guess nowadays stickers are the way to go. Okay, here we go. There's not a whole lot of room left, but I'm gonna put it right here. So if you happen to come to the Arctic Circle this year in 23, that's where we are. Let's find a campsite. It's supposed to be BLM land. There's supposed to be a BLM land campground back here.
Oh, an old Argosy. Cool.
So let me tell you what happened. We left the water pump on, as we usually do, you know, on the road, but we had never taken a road this bumpy. So, yeah, apparently with all the bumping up and down, the kitchen sink faucet opened up, and we wasted some precious water. Hopefully we can get more water in Coldfoot. Other than that, as I mentioned, it's structurally speaking, it's held up really well. Yeah, we found a couple of brackets and screws on the floor that we don't know where they belong, but eventually something will fall off. All right, let's see how this is. I forgot my campsite name. Bear and wolf activity. We'll be cautious. So I believe we are in number 5. Yep, we're in number 5. I'm gonna fill this out and then deposit it over there.
This is what we're doing. We unhitched and now we're going to go for a midnight ride. Oh, check out the moon. The midnight moon. It is actually just past 1 AM. And the real solar midnight will happen almost at 2. First, because of daylight savings time, and the Alaska time zone is an hour off in central Alaska. We're going to a spot that I've heard is one of the best places to see the midnight sun on the Dalton Highway. So we're driving about 17 miles north to this vantage point called Gobbler's Knob.
Well, I had always heard that Gobbler's Knob here was one of the best places to witness the midnight sun, and they were not wrong. This is an incredible experience to see how the sun goes, you know, horizontally at this point. It never sets, you know. That's north, exactly north over there. and the sun kind of comes from the west where it would have set normally. This is the lowest point, and eventually it will go back up on the east. But yeah, I believe that down there is the town of Coldfoot, where we're going tomorrow. And yeah, it's a phenomenon that only happens here above the Arctic Circle. We're about 15 miles north of the Arctic Circle, and yeah, it's quite something to see. It's like a 3-hour sunset, if you will, that that never happens.
That down there, by the way, not Coldfoot, that is pump station number 5, and the sun is starting to come back up.
Well, it's a little after 2 a.m. and I think the sun is starting to come back up. It certainly feels stronger, so we're gonna start heading back to the campground. And tomorrow will be another day on the Dalton.
This may be the one single occasion when I'm allowed to fly the drone legally at 2 a.m. without any lights. The rule states that you can fly 30 minutes before sunrise and 30 after sunset, and since neither is going to happen here, we're good to go.
It's 2:25 a.m.
we've seen a lot of truck campers on the Dalton. Also, quite a few cyclists. And we're back at Gobbler's Knob, so let's see the view in a different light.
Yeah, last night I was thinking it might be Coldfoot, but it's too close to be Coldfoot, so no.
Yeah.
No way.
We're getting closer to the Brooks Range, arguably the most beautiful part of the drive. Now you know what we haven't seen any of? Wildlife. Here we have our next stop coming up. Did you see that crater in the middle of the road?
And here's Graylin Lake, a lake so beautiful. I even wrote a song named after it.
Here we have our first major wildlife sighting. Hello, moose. Listen to the sound of silence when there is no traffic on the Dalton. This paved part of the road is really bad, with deep frost heaves and potholes the size of craters. But the views are getting so much better as we approach the Brooks Range. We're almost at Coldfoot, which is the psychological halfway point of our journey, and the only place to get fuel for the next 240 miles. There it is. I can see it. Coldfoot. Let's stop by the visitor center first. Now, where have we seen that Airstream Argosy before? This is the Arctic Interagency Visitor Center, run by the Bureau of Land Management, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the National Park Service. I really like this partial globe here. It really illustrates how far north we really are.
We are here.
I don't know if it's...
Here are some of the animals we may or may not see, including this mean-looking grizzly, the Dall sheep of Adigan Pass, a lynx preying on a hare, a representation of the midnight sun. Wait, I think it is broken. Let's get some of that precious fuel so we can make it all the way to the Arctic. Oh wait, this one is diesel. This one is out of order. This is becoming a mission here. The only gas station around and only one pump works. What can I say? It is the Arctic.
Well, here we are filling up at the northernmost truck stop. $7.49 a gallon. But there's not another gas station for 240 miles, so I guess that's a deal considering where we are. Alright, let's see if what we can do. Someone's delivering something.
Someone's getting a delivery by helicopter. That's something you don't see every day. But I guess when you're this remote, that's the only way to get same-day delivery. I wonder what it is though, and how much it costs to get something up here by helicopter. Let's get some water.
The water fill-up, by the way, vary on our system. I could have filled up and she wouldn't have even noticed. But I think this is a historic cabin we have here.
This thermometer only goes down to -60, but it was here that famously yet unofficially a record of -82 Fahrenheit but -63 Celsius was set, making it the coldest place in the USA.
Here you're allowed to tent camp here in this field, and this back here is the hotel. That's where we stayed back in 2010, and somewhere back there they have RV hookups. It's just water and electric, no sewer. There's no sewer in the whole Dalton Highway, luckily. Oh, it looks like it's gonna rain. Luckily our gray seems to be almost empty. It's just, yeah. It's very, very low pressure. I think it's water from the Koyukuk River.
An eternity later, we are back on our way. Next service is 240 miles. Hopefully we can make it with one tank. By the way, apparently Coldfoot got its name in 1900 when gold prospectors who were traveling up the Koyukuk River got cold feet and turned around. By 1902, Coldfoot had 2 roadhouses, 2 stores, 7 saloons, and a gambling house. I guess gold brought more people and business than oil. I don't know if I mentioned this, but most of the Dalton, from the Yukon River to Tulek Lake, is BLM land, so we could probably spend the night at any pullout, but since there are several developed campgrounds, why not use them, right? They're only $10 per night, first come, first served, and here's one of them, called Marion Creek. Here are some people tent camping. There's that white Airstream Argosy once again.
Got a pretty nice campsite. Now let's go pay. I'm out of $10 bills, so we're gonna have to write him a check. This one would have been nice too, but too many trees.
I love trees, but Starlink doesn't, so we usually try to get the campsite with the least tall trees overhead.
Alright, let's go see the creek that gives this campground its name. Marion Creek. Well, check this out. Manual pump. If we need to fill up, that's gonna take a lot of muscle.
Let's keep on walking. Such beautiful views. I think at one point there used to be a trail to the creek, but it is so overgrown, we're just gonna walk on the Dalton. There's hardly any traffic at this time of the day.
There it is, that is Marion Creek. Brooks Range to the north. Upper atmosphere wind shear. Actually, this is the actual trail that goes to the falls. But I don't think we're gonna do it. Yeah, I think we're gonna save this one for next time. Actually, I'm gonna walk a few more steps. It has these blue blazes, but nah, not in the mood today.
that's all the time we have this week. I believe the best of the Dalton, and the worst for that matter, are still ahead of us. On the next episode, we'll continue the rest of the way to Prudhoe Bay and the Arctic Ocean. Until then, thank you so much for watching, and see you on the road. Riding in my